It's me, Tiffany. Or True Crime Tiff if you like. Either way, I got a story to tell you. Actually, I've got 2 stories to tell you. Let's not waste any more time. Welcome to Far Too Far. You are a true crime weirdo. That I know. You spend your time coming up with emergency exit plans for any scenario and trying to find lessons within the stories of another person's misfortune. So of course you've heard of John List. But have you heard of William Bradford Bishop? For those of you out of the loop, or in need of a reminder, John List was a murderer who was on the run for far too long. It all started when John lost his job, and he couldn't bear to tell his family. See, he was responsible for financially supporting his 3 children, his wife, and his mother who lived with them. Up until this point, John had given his family a good life, at least on paper. John was making a good living at his job at the bank. This afforded his family the lifestyle of living in a 19-room Victorian mansion located at 431 Hillside Avenue in Westfield, New Jersey. So, John pondered what his next steps would be as he sat at the train station all day when his family thought he was at work.
All aboard!
He came to the conclusion that living on welfare would not be an option for his family, being their wealthy residence and honorable reputation, as he put it. The only option would be for him to murder them. Yes, this must be the answer, he thought. This would shield them from having to suffer. And he also worried about his family's religious standings, as John was quite a strict religious man. He had noticed that his wife Helen had taken up drinking lately, and she had stopped going to church. Now, this would surely lead to the children not going to church anymore and them spiraling into a life of sin. In order to save them and secure their place in heaven, he would have to kill them. Okay, so another thing that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, on John's mind, is Helen's declining health. So it had been a mystery for years what was going on with Helen's health. But recently she had come clean with John that she knew the reason for her ailment all along and that she had been keeping it from him. So Helen was suffering from syphilis and had been suffering from it for about 20 years. Syphilis is a bacterial infection that is considered an STI. The first symptom is a small sore that is usually painless. This is considered the primary stage, and within a few weeks, the sore will heal. In the secondary stage, a rash develops. The rash is usually not itchy, but may look rough. Other symptoms experienced in this stage include hair loss, muscle aches, sore throat, fatigue, fever, and weight loss. This stage can last for months or years. Then there is the I don't know how to say that word, but it's the late stage. So there's the late stage, which causes damage to brain, nerves, liver, bones, joints, eyes, just like everywhere. It basically just everywhere. You just start to fall apart. Like seriously, you can experience stroke, loss of memory and judgment, eye pain, blindness, hearing loss, vertigo. Trust me, it just goes on. The list goes on and on. But Tiffany, syphilis is treatable, you say. Yeah, I know, you're right. Syphilis became treatable with the discovery of penicillin in 1943. So, Helen was given syphilis in the early 40s from her first husband. He ended up dying in the war. But anyways, she had been treated during that time, but the treatment failed. I guess that's a thing. I don't know if they just gave up after that or if they tried again. And did they try different treatment? I don't know. Not sure. But I'm just going to trust that she couldn't be cured. I tried to go down a rabbit hole about failed treatments, but there was so much medical terminology, and I just wasn't willing to get a doctorate's degree just in order to explain this segment. So anyways, this was leading her to mental decline and also blindness. Things were rough for Helen, and honestly, I really feel bad for her. Like, I know, like, don't come for me, okay? I just kind of feel bad for her. She was living with this for 20 years, and it obviously affected her physically. I'm sure it affected her emotionally as well. But before you come for me, syphilis is not usually contagious in the later stages, and it's highly unlikely that she passed it to John or to the children. Yeah, it's definitely time to move on. Where were we? Oh yeah, John decided he had to kill his family. So, on November 9th, 1971, he did just that. While the children were at school, he killed his wife first by shooting her in the back of the head. He then put a bullet in his own mother's head, whose name was Alma. What a cute name. He waited then in the home with the 2 dead bodies until his youngest children arrived home from school. His daughter Patricia was 16, and his son Frederick was 13. He shot them both in the back of the head as they arrived home. And then he then had lunch in the home with the now 4 dead bodies. After that, he headed to the bank to take all the money out of his account. Then he made his way to pick up his older son, John Frederick, from soccer. Once the 2 made it to the home, John List also shot and killed him. He felt relief now that his family would certainly make it to heaven. List wrote a 5-page letter explaining his actions before fleeing. The bodies of his family would not be discovered until December the 7th, almost a month later. In hiding, John List evaded the police for 17 years. During this time, he was featured on the popular television show America's Most Wanted, which would be his downfall. A past neighbor of his actually recognized him as almost identical to the age-progressed bust that the show displayed. List himself actually watched the episode with his wife Dolores, and once he saw his image and a bust of him on the screen, he quickly began perspiring with anxiety. So the neighbor that was like watching the show and was like, "Ooh, that looks just like so-and-so," she called in and gave the officials a tip that would lead to List's arrest. It was 1989 in Midlothian, Virginia. On that day, John List's current wife, Dolores Clark, would receive the call that her husband had been arrested by the FBI. List at this time was going by the name Robert Peter Clark and working at an accounting firm, oddly enough. In court, he would be found guilty and sentenced to 5 life sentences, 1 for each life he took. John List would die while still serving time in prison from complications of pneumonia in 2008. He was 82 years old.